Hi, you're on the Reddit Confessions channel. Tonight's story starts with a soft buzzing sound, the vibration of a phone left on the kitchen counter. She didn't know I was standing right there when it lit up. It was 6:42 p.m. The pasta was boiling over. I was draining it, half listening to some podcast about extinct birds, when her phone buzzed. She was still gone, bachelorette weekend in Aspen. Supposed to be back that night. The message preview said, "Can't stop thinking about last night. You're unreal." No name, just a red heart emoji at the end. I wish I could say I ignored it, that I respected her privacy, that I waited until she came home and just talked to her like a mature adult. But I didn't. I picked it up. My hands were wet. I wiped them on my hoodie and unlocked it with her birthday, because she's not exactly mysterious. Her lock screen was a photo of us from a wedding last year. My arm around her waist, her eyes on the camera, my eyes on her, and under that photo was hell. Dozens of texts. From someone saved as Coach Mike Basketball. She doesn't play sports. Never did. The messages weren't subtle. There were no code words, just sentences that stabbed. You're better than I imagined. Wish I could have stayed longer. He'll never know. Some of the messages had photos. I didn't open them. I didn't need to. I put the phone down, walked to the hall closet, pulled out my old gray suitcase, the one she always said was too beat up for a honeymoon. I set it beside the door. Then I sat down, opened a drawer, took out an envelope, and started writing. My hand shook as I wrote her name. Then I printed the screenshots, folded them once, tucked them in with the note, and waited. She came home 4 hours later, smiling, buzzing. Her hair smelled like champagne and firewood. She kissed me on the cheek like nothing had happened. And then she saw it. The suitcase, the envelope. Her smile didn't fade, curled. And that's when she said it. The first thing out of her mouth. You weren't supposed to find that. She didn't flinch when she saw the envelope. She didn't ask what was inside. She didn't cry, scream, or even act surprised. Instead, she picked it up with a quiet sort of grace, like she'd rehearsed this moment 100 times before. She slid her finger under the flap, pulled out the folded note and the printed screenshots, and gave them the kind of glance you'd give a receipt you already knew the total for. Her eyes never met mine. "Do you want me to explain?" she asked calmly, her voice soft but not remorseful. It sounded more like an offer than a plea. "No," I said, barely able to get the word out. "I already read everything I need to know." There was a long pause. She finally looked at me, but it wasn't fear or shame in her eyes. It was restraint, like she was trying not to laugh at how predictably I reacted. And then she did what I'll never forget. She sat down at the kitchen table, crossed her legs like we were about to have a polite conversation, and asked, "So what now?" That question hit me harder than the messages ever could. What now? I wanted to scream, to ask how she could come home wearing the same earrings I gave her last Christmas while knowing she had someone else's hands all over her 48 hours earlier. I wanted to ask if she thought of me when she smiled in those pictures, if she ever truly meant the things she whispered in our bed at night. But instead, I just stood there, a grown man, feeling like a lost child in his own house. "I packed a bag," I finally said. "I'm going to stay at my brother's for a while." Her lips parted. She looked genuinely confused. "Wait, you're leaving?" That's when I realized. She didn't expect consequences. She thought I'd yell, cry, maybe sleep on the couch for a few nights, but she never imagined I'd actually walk out the door. "It was one night, Marlon," she said, the first hint of urgency slipping into her voice. "It didn't mean anything. I was drunk. Everyone else was hooking up. And I just—" "You just what?" I snapped. "Fell into his lap by accident?" She blinked hard, caught off guard by my sarcasm. I rarely ever raised my voice. I was always the one who smoothed things over, who apologized first, even when I wasn't wrong. But not this time. "You don't even know him," she said quickly. "It's not like he matters." I stared at her for a moment, heart pounding. "Then why did you text him 3 hours ago?" Her face drained of color. She didn't think I'd gone through the rest of the messages. She tried to recover, but the panic was showing now. Okay, yes, I texted him, but only to say it was a mistake, that I couldn't talk to him again. I nodded slowly, letting the silence fill the space between us. Read it, I said. What? Read the last message you sent him. Out loud. Right now. She hesitated, picked up her phone, unlocked it. I could see her thumb shaking. She scrolled through the conversation, her mouth moving slightly like she was reading it silently first. Then she looked up, lips pressed tight. I can't, she whispered, and that was all the confirmation I needed. I turned toward the door, grabbed my suitcase. As I opened it, something slipped from the side pocket and hit the floor. It was the Polaroid camera I'd packed in her bag before the trip. The one I thought she'd forgotten. She saw it too. Her expression changed. Just for a second. Like maybe she'd realized something she hadn't before. The Polaroid camera lay on the hardwood floor, face down. I hadn't even remembered slipping it into her bag. Just one of those little romantic gestures I used to make. At the time, it felt sweet. Now, it felt radioactive. We both stared at it like it had teeth. She didn't move, didn't speak. But her eyes were glued to it. And that, more than anything, made me curious. I bent down slowly and picked it up. I didn't use it, she said quickly, before I'd even opened the flap. It stayed in my bag the whole time. She was lying. I could tell from the way her voice sped up and her hand instinctively reached out, like she wanted to stop me but didn't want to make it obvious. I pressed the power button. The screen flickered to life. 6 photos stored. 6. That camera resets every time it dies. If it hadn't been used, there'd be nothing. You sure about that? I asked, keeping my tone as flat as I could. I meant to use it, but I forgot. I swear. I didn't even. I clicked into the memory viewer. The first photo was harmless. A blurry group shot at a rooftop bar, girls in shiny dresses, all smiling, arms thrown around each other. Okay, whatever. Typical bachelorette stuff. I kept flipping. Second photo. Her sipping from a giant cocktail glass, sunglasses on, leaning against a guy. His face was turned away, but his hand was resting firmly on her thigh. My stomach twisted. Third, that same guy, now facing her. They were laughing. Her head thrown back, lips parted. His hand was higher this time. Fourth, him again, shirtless, holding her bridal sash up against his chest like a joke. She was behind him, still in her dress, wrapping her arms around him. Fifth, a shot taken from a bed. Sheets rumpled. 2 glasses on the nightstand. A man's watch beside one. No faces. Just implication. And the 6th, a selfie. Her. In the mirror of the hotel bathroom, still wearing the same necklace I'd given her 2 weeks before. Hair tousled. Smudged lipstick. And a text overlay in the corner like she meant to send it later. Don't worry, he's still asleep. I'll be home before midnight kiss mark. I didn't say anything. I just turned the camera toward her and let her see it for herself. Her hands slowly covered her mouth. Marlon, she whispered, finally sounding shaken. I didn't mean for... God. I didn't even remember that photo was on there. I should have said something. I should have screamed or cried or thrown the camera. But I couldn't feel anything anymore. It was like my body had decided it had suffered enough emotions for the day. I zipped up the suitcase and pulled on my jacket. She stepped in front of the door. Please, she said. Please just... don't leave like this. I looked at her. This person I'd shared years with. This person who, 24 hours earlier, I was planning a future with. You know, I said quietly, for a long time, I wondered if I was enough for you. If I was boring. If you stayed with me out of comfort, not love. But now I realize. It wasn't about being enough. It was about you not knowing what real loyalty feels like. She went pale. Her lips quivered. I moved past her and opened the door. But before I stepped out, I turned back. Delete my number when you're done deleting the photos. I walked down the hallway in complete silence. I didn't know where I was going yet. Maybe to my brother's. Maybe to a hotel. But I knew one thing for sure. The wedding was canceled. I didn't sleep that night. Not a second. I checked into a dingy motel off the interstate, one of those places where the sheets feel damp no matter what you do and the vending machine hums like a dying animal. I sat on the edge of the bed staring at the engagement ring I had spent weeks saving for, now resting in my palm like a cruel joke. It wasn't just a ring anymore. It was a punchline, a prop in a story I never agreed to star in. I kept replaying everything in my head. Her smile when she walked through the door. The way she tried to lie with so much ease. The way she froze, not in guilt but in strategy. Like she was calculating which version of the truth I'd swallow easiest. I felt stupid. And not just because I hadn't seen the signs, but because deep down I still wanted her to be sorry. I still wanted her to chase after me, to beg, to cry, to be the woman I thought she was. Instead, I got a text at 3:17 a.m. "We should talk in the morning. I owe you that. Please." I didn't reply. Couldn't. I looked at the ring one last time and dropped it into the motel trash can. No dramatic throw, no final speech. Just the soft thunk of metal landing on stale coffee cups and crumpled tissues. Around 6 a.m., I left the motel and drove aimlessly for hours. I wasn't ready to go to my brother's. I didn't want the pity in his eyes or the awkward hug where neither of us knew what to say. So I just drove. At some point, I found myself parked outside a diner we used to go to. She always ordered banana pancakes. I never liked them, but I ordered them anyway because it made her smile. I was halfway through my coffee when my phone rang. I didn't recognize the number. For a moment, I considered ignoring it, but something in me, curiosity, dread, maybe both, made me answer. "Marlon?" The voice on the other end asked. It wasn't Twyla. It was a man's voice, older, hesitant. "Yeah, who's this?" A pause. "My name's Jack. I was with Twyla this weekend." Just like that, the air thickened. He continued, speaking fast, as if he was trying to get it all out before I could hang up. "I didn't know she was engaged. She didn't tell me. I found out after I left. I got her name from a mutual friend, and look man, I just thought you deserved to know. She said you were separated, that the wedding had been canceled already." I couldn't speak. I just stared into my coffee like it held answers. "She told me she hadn't loved you in a long time," he added softly. "I never would have touched her if I'd known." I hung up. I didn't slam the phone or curse him out. I didn't even feel anger. I just felt cold. Not the kind of cold that makes you shiver, but the kind that settles into your bones and convinces you nothing will ever feel warm again. Twyla lied to him the same way she lied to me. Same calm voice, same smile. She had turned our relationship into a shield she could toss away the moment it got inconvenient. It wasn't just betrayal, it was erasure. Like I never mattered at all. I left the diner without finishing my food. Got in the car. And for the first time in 2 days I didn't feel paralyzed. I wasn't ready to heal yet, but I was done being numb. Back at the motel I found the ring still in the trash. I didn't take it out, but I did something else. I pulled out my laptop and opened the wedding planning document we had shared. And I deleted everything. One click at a time. Guest list. Deleted. Venue. Gone. Florist. Dress fittings. Honeymoon reservations. All wiped. And then I opened a blank document. I stared at the screen for a while, and finally typed something simple. "I deserve better." The knock came late, almost 10 p.m. I was lying in bed at the motel, still dressed, the TV on mute. I hadn't told anyone where I was, not even my brother. For a split second, I thought it might be Twyla. I pictured her outside, mascara streaked, holding the ring box, whispering something she thought sounded like redemption. But when I opened the door, it wasn't her. It was her younger sister, Naomi. She looked nervous, not in a guilty way, but like someone who had rehearsed something all day and wasn't sure how it would land. She was holding a small overnight bag and a paper folder clutched tight against her chest. "I didn't know where else to go," she said. I let her in without a word. Naomi had always been the outlier in Twyla's family. She didn't have her sister's polished confidence or love for performance. She was quiet, often faded into the background during family dinners. But right now, she was radiating something close to panic. She sat on the edge of the bed and handed me the folder. "I'm not doing this to be spiteful," she began. "But I can't let her lie to you anymore." Inside were printed screenshots, dozens of them, conversations I hadn't seen, photos I hadn't discovered, Venmo transactions, flirty messages, deleted threads that Naomi had somehow salvaged from Twyla's old iPad that still backed up to a shared cloud account. It wasn't just the guy from the bachelorette party. There were others, dates stretching back almost 9 months. Weekend trips she'd said were work conferences. Girls' nights where she never let me pick her up. A contact saved as Lacey's dentist, who apparently sent her hotel confirmations and late-night voice memos. I felt like the floor was disappearing beneath me, one memory at a time. "I didn't want to believe it at first," Naomi said, her voice cracking. "She's my sister. But the things she said about you, the way she laughed about it all." She trailed off, but I knew what she meant. She'd seen the messages. She'd read them. Twyla hadn't just been unfaithful. She'd been cruel, telling people I was too clingy, boring, emotionally fragile, saying I was only good for stability, but didn't make her feel alive. One message in particular made my hands shake. "Marlon's the kind of guy you marry when you're tired of bad boys. But I'm not tired yet." I stared at the printout so long that the words started to blur. My ears buzzed. The room felt too quiet and too loud all at once. "I thought you should see it before she spins it into something else," Naomi added. "She's already texting my parents saying you're overreacting, that you're being dramatic." It hit me then. I wasn't just mourning the end of a relationship. I was mourning who I thought I was in it. I had given everything to this woman. I had bent over backwards to make her feel loved, supported, secure. And to her, I was a placeholder, a safety net, a man she could lean on while she chased chaos. Naomi watched me quietly, her eyes glossy. "She doesn't deserve you. She never did." It wasn't comforting. Not really. But it was the first time someone said it out loud. She stayed for about 20 minutes, left the folder with me. Before walking out, she hesitated. "There's something else," she said. "She's planning to post some version of the story online, paint herself as the victim. I just thought you should be prepared." Of course she was. Twyla had always been good at curating a narrative. After Naomi left, I didn't sleep. Again, I read every message in that folder, every picture, every detail I had been too trusting to question. And when the sun started rising, I didn't feel broken. I felt something else entirely. I was done being the quiet guy in the background of his own life. I was done letting people rewrite the story. And for once, I wanted the world to hear my side. By noon the next day, I had made up my mind. I wasn't going to scream, beg, or show up at her apartment like some broken cliché. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of framing the narrative while I stayed quiet, humiliated, in the background. Twyla had always been good at controlling the room, twisting stories into whatever made her shine. But not this time. I opened our shared wedding website. We had set it up months ago. Pictures, registry links, gushy paragraphs about how we met, our love story, typed in curly fonts. She made sure everything sounded perfect. I hovered over the admin login. My credentials still worked. Of course they did. She never expected me to touch it. I clicked edit, and I began writing the truth. I didn't rant. I didn't insult her. I just told the story. Plainly, calmly. I explained why the wedding was canceled, how I discovered the photos, how the messages revealed a second life. I even included one screenshot, the selfie from the hotel bathroom, with the timestamp that overlapped perfectly with a call she'd made to me claiming she missed me. Took me an hour to write, another 30 minutes to breathe afterward. Then I made the page public. I also sent the link privately to the people who needed to see it most, close friends, family members who had already booked flights, people who'd sent heartfelt gifts weeks in advance. I didn't want them to hear a twisted version of events. I wanted the truth out before the damage was done. By 4 p.m., my phone was blowing up. At first, it was silence from her side. But I knew that wouldn't last. Sure enough, by dinner time, the first message came in. Twyla, what the hell did you just do? I ignored it. Twyla, Marlon, you are ruining my life. Do you know how humiliating this is? Still, I said nothing. 2 minutes later, a phone call. I let it ring out. Then came the voicemail. Her voice, high-pitched and trembling, not with sorrow, but with rage. You always do this, you shut down and make yourself the victim. This was between us. You're pathetic, Marlon. I made one mistake and you decided to crucify me in front of everyone. This is revenge. That's all this is. One mistake. I had to laugh. 8 different men. 3 fake work trips. 1 secret Instagram account. 1 lie stacked on top of another until our entire relationship was balancing on a toothpick. But sure, I was the villain now. A few hours later, I got a message from someone I hadn't heard from in years. Twyla's ex, Brandon. He sent a single line. She did the same thing to me. I'm sorry, man. I didn't reply. What could I say? Misery doesn't really make good company. It just echoes back everything you're trying to forget. That night, I finally checked social media. Twyla had posted a photo of herself, cropped perfectly, smiling through it all, with a vague caption. Some people will try to destroy your peace. Don't let them. She had turned the fallout into an inspirational quote. The comment section was split. Some people were praising her for staying strong. Others were confused. One mutual friend commented, "Wait, I thought the wedding was still on?" Then I saw Naomi comment under the post. "Ask her why it was really canceled. She won't answer. But I've got receipts if you want them." And just like that, the mask started slipping. She deleted Naomi's comment in under 5 minutes. But it was too late. The story had already started unraveling. People were talking. Not because I wanted drama, but because you can't burn everything down and expect no one to notice the smoke. I didn't want attention. I didn't want sympathy. I just wanted peace. But it turns out sometimes the only way to get peace is to stop protecting the person who shattered yours. I thought the next wave of chaos would come from Twyla herself, maybe more angry messages or some grand attempt to spin everything back in her favor. But it wasn't her who reached out. It was her parents. They called me the morning after the post went viral in our little social circle. I was sitting at a gas station diner with lukewarm coffee, trying to pretend that a breakfast burrito could soak up the mess in my head. My phone rang with her dad's name on the screen. I nearly let it go to voicemail, but something told me to answer. "Marlon," he said, his voice low, not angry, almost defeated. "Can we talk?" His wife was on the line too, and they were already on their way to the diner. I didn't know what to expect. These were people who had always been polite to me, warm even. Her dad had shaken my hand with both of his during the engagement party and said, "You're one of the good ones." Her mom once cried when we sent them a surprise video of our proposal. Now they were walking toward me like parents who'd just been told their kid burned down a neighbor's house. Twyla's mom sat across from me and didn't say anything for a full minute. Then she took a deep breath and said the one thing I hadn't prepared for. "I'm sorry." Her dad looked at me and added, "You didn't deserve any of this." I blinked. Felt like someone had taken the air out of the room. I'd braced myself for anger, for defensiveness, for the typical, there are 2 sides to every story speech. But they just sat there, looking ashamed. "She's always had this problem," her mom continued, "since she was a teenager. Lies, secrets. It's like she gets addicted to the attention and then can't stop. We tried to believe she'd changed. With you, she seemed grounded for the first time." I wanted to say something, but the words felt too small. I just nodded slowly. Her dad leaned in. "We're not asking you to take her back. That ship sailed. We just want you to know we don't condone any of it. And if she tells you we pressured her into anything, or that we're taking sides, she's lying again." They told me she was still spinning the story, that she'd called them sobbing the night before, saying I had hacked her phone, that I had ambushed her with fake evidence. But when they asked to see her proof, she changed the subject. They had seen the screenshots I posted. Naomi had sent them more. Twyla was in full panic mode, not because she felt guilt, but because her control was slipping. Her dad hesitated, then asked a question I hadn't expected. "Do you want us to return the wedding gifts? Or would you rather we handle that?" I almost laughed. The question was so practical, so absurd in the middle of everything else. "No," I said. "I'll do it. It's part of the process, I guess." Her mom reached into her purse and handed me a small velvet pouch. "We thought you might want this back." It was the ring box. I hadn't seen it since the night I proposed. I opened it slowly. The ring sparkled exactly like it had in the store under those fake jeweler lights. But now it looked dull, like something dug up from a grave I didn't want to revisit. I didn't say thank you. I just closed it and placed it face down on the table. They left quietly. No dramatic farewell. Just a few more apologies, and the kind of looks people give when they know there's nothing left to fix. After they left, I sat in the booth for another hour. I stared at the ring box, at the untouched burrito, at the people around me living their quiet lives. And then I picked up my phone, opened a blank note, and started writing again. Not for her, not for anyone else. Just for me, because it wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about reclaiming my voice from the ruins she left behind. 3 weeks passed. The wedding date came and went. There were no flowers, no music, no awkward toasts, no slow dance under fairy lights. The venue called to confirm cancellation. The florist refunded half. My brother helped me box up the decorations we'd stored in his garage. Centerpieces, unused place cards, and a welcome to our forever sign I couldn't bring myself to look at for more than a second. But something unexpected happened after all the noise died down. I started sleeping through the night. The panic attacks stopped. My hands stopped shaking when I opened text messages. I no longer stared at the ceiling wondering what I did wrong, or why I wasn't enough, or how long she had been planning her escape behind my back. I began remembering the things I loved before I lost myself in her world. I went back to reading, hiking, listening to music without associating every line with her face. I started running again, not to punish my body, but to feel it move, like I was reclaiming space inside my own skin. And somewhere along the way, I realized something important. Twyla didn't destroy me. She just showed me who she really was. And that was a gift. Not all endings are disasters. Some are quiet rescues. I eventually donated the ring. Not to a pawn shop, not to some resale site, but to a local charity that helps low-income couples get married. Someone else will start their love story with it. And maybe, just maybe, it'll mean something real this time. Naomi and I still talk occasionally. She checks in, sends the occasional meme, sometimes even asks if I'm seeing anyone. I'm not yet. I want to heal completely before I give my heart to someone else. And for the first time in years, I'm okay with being alone. Because I'm no longer in the dark. I'm not hiding. I'm not scared. I'm not bitter. I'm just free. And honestly, that feels better than any wedding ever could. Tell us in the comments. What's a surprising event from story that made you rethink everything? And don't forget to like and subscribe.